Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Riley Hinchy, and I am the Ag teacher and FFA advisor in Streator, Illinois. So, not from the state of Georgia, but teach up here in Illinois. And I was actually contacted to kind of go through some things and how to connect with students online. And although I have to admit, I'm actually teaching in a hybrid model currently. I will say that I've enjoyed having some of those interactions with my students that, were primarily an online interaction, or even something where I had to visit and then kind of take off, which you're going to see a little bit of that today. But if you take a look at the screen, I'm going to let you know that I operate off two screens. So if I look to my left and then look to my right, it's because I'm looking at both of them. But there I am in the bottom left-hand corner for National Teach Ag Day. I was fortunate enough to get one of those kits from NAAE, and so I actually dressed up in my Teach Ag attire. Take a look at the bow tie. It's pretty rocking. And then on the right, of course, you can see what my mom calls my chiclet smile. And that is, of course, my professional picture from school a couple years ago. Bald head still here. Nothing's really changed. But I'm hoping that by the end of today, I've shared with some things that will allow you to connect with your students maybe a little bit more. And maybe you'll feel like you've gotten something out of this, and maybe you'll be like, yep, seen that already. But there are things that have worked very well for me, and things that have allowed me to connect with my students both inside and outside the classroom, as I've kind of had a little bit of both. So with that, again, my name is Riley Hinchy. I'm an ag teacher and FFA advisor in Illinois, Streator Township High School to be exact. I began teaching in August of 2014. So I'm entering my 7th year, which is crazy for me to believe. I work with a couple pre-service teachers every single year, so that's kind of like something that I really enjoy, is working with pre-service teachers. My email, my phone number is there. If you have any questions, feel free to call or text. And then Facebook and Instagram. One thing you'll notice about our Facebook is I actually operate mostly everything that we do out of a group instead of a Facebook page. So it has made a world of difference for how things operate in the program. But with that being said, I'm going to kind of run through what we're looking at today is connecting with your students online, beginning of the year postcards, or they can be used at any time of the year. Notes in the mail, sprinkle bags, weekly updates, signs and balloons in the kids' yards, creating a PowerPoint about yourself as well as your students. Flipgrid is an amazing thing. Virtual field trip is something that I've tried this year that has worked well. Officer team question answer night, creating an about me video, which is going to fall underneath the Flipgrid. And then finally, the use of Canva has really made a difference in how I've been able to interact with students. Again, I hope some of these will be useful for you, but these are just some of the many things I've done. So here's one that I actually stole from another teacher in North Dakota. At the beginning of the year, I created postcards that hit the mail like 4 days before we started teaching. And so these postcards just had information about me, and it talked about what are my favorite things to do, what education I've had, some random things, and then how I wanted to introduce myself for my students. I also attached a barcode to that so that it took it to a Flipgrid, and then the kids could watch a video that I produced, and then they could respond to said video so I could get to know them a little bit better. So that was really exciting for me, because I got the chance to actually watch and see what my kids thought of my video, and then they responded. So use the Flipgrid to create that video account, and they could, of course, get back to me. My parents loved this. I had multiple parents that reached out and said, that was awesome that you did this. You know, the kids got to see you. They got to know who you were before even class started. And so that was really cool. But what's really cool about this is this can happen anytime. It could happen before you come back from Christmas, or excuse me, the holidays. It can happen when you are leaving. It can happen at any time throughout the course of the year. So don't think it just has to be beginning. But this is something that really made a big difference for me. The next one is notes in the mail. So last spring, we had a really tough time transitioning from being in school every single day to we're done. And I knew my kids were struggling with it as well. And so I bought some cheap cards off Amazon, had them, of course, shipped right to me. Amazon Prime's a wonderful thing. And I sent every single one of my kids, I had 115, a note in the mail over the course of about 2 weeks. And I would do one class at a time, and I would just sit down and write it out for that class. And for the kids that I'm closer with, I spent a little more time than the kids that I'm not so close with. And I made sure that those hit the mail, and multiple kids sent an email saying, we miss you. We hope you're doing well. And I realized that that's something that's different because you already knew who your kids were. You could still do something similar with ones that maybe you don't know as well. So for old students, maybe talk about what you miss and some of their personality traits that you're looking forward to seeing again. And then for new students, maybe some things that they can look forward to in the future. And maybe like you're glad that they're in class or something like that. And this adds a personal touch to them. It really does. Has made a huge difference. And I realize it's kind of a lot of money to throw up front because it's 50 cents per stamp. But at the same point, it's something that kids don't get very much anymore, and that's a letter in the mail. So it really made a huge impact, not only for my kids, but again, the parents found this to be outstanding. Whoops, excuse me. Sprinkle bags. This is something that I personally didn't do, but a coworker did. She had only 50 students, and so she actually put sprinkle bags together for each of her kids. So I'm not saying this is something you have to do for every kid. I'm not saying you have to do it at all. But she went to the Dollar Tree, spent like $150 of her own money, and you could use program money too. Don't forget about that, or ask for community donations. And she made little bags for each one of her kids that had little fun things inside of them, and even had an assignment in them. And so like the assignment was like for a week-long activity that the kids had to complete over the course of the week. So it wasn't something like takes 5 minutes and it's done. Like it had everything in it for them to complete that assignment. And so again, you could use program funds, you could use school funds, whatever you need to, but make it fun and exciting. So if it's going to be something that you're going to have an activity in there, then throw some candy in there, some stickers, do something, and like you literally just drop it off on their front porch, ring the doorbell a couple times, and run. And you could even send the kids all an email, say, I'm just letting you know I'm going to drop something off from this time to this time. And she said she felt really inspired because she felt like some of these kids never get anything like that, and they never have anything delivered to them, or they never have that opportunity where something comes directly to them, or somebody even cares about them that much. And so, like I said, she spent some money, she had fun with it, it gave her something to do, it got her out of the house. So creating sprinkle bags and then sprinkling them wherever your students live definitely can make a huge difference, and it doesn't have to be expensive. So this is something that changed for me a long time ago. I stole it from another ag teacher, I'm not going to lie. But I send out a weekly update every single week. Usually it's Sunday or Monday nights, and it tells what the kids are learning in every single class. It says what I'm doing for events that week. It says what we have for upcoming events. What are students learning, things that are happening. It's made a very big difference in how the community that I live in sees the ag program. And so a weekly update has made a huge difference in keeping kids on track and what's going on, and even parents having questions. Now, this is just page one. Normally, I attach like 3 or 4 or 5 other pages to it, depending on what's going on. Such we just got poinsettias in this last week. And again, I have a hybrid model, but I still see my kids twice a week in class. And so like I attached another page with this saying like our poinsettias have arrived. They're going to be available at this time. So a weekly update has made a really large difference in how my kids communicate, talk with each other, etc. Signs and balloons. Like a lot of teachers last year, I jumped on the bandwagon and I created signs for all of my seniors, and I went around and put them in their yard and attached balloons to them. Again, this might be something that you think about maybe later on down the line and not so much now, but if you have a kid that gets a state FFA degree or does very well at a proficiency award, or you still have CDEs, you can't celebrate that stuff in school. Use some program money to order signs, or decorate their house, or do something. Make them feel as if they really, not that they've missed nothing. Use social media to tag people in businesses. See if you can get businesses to sponsor them. Make your kids feel as if nothing is different at all, because even though that we think about it as like, oh my God, they're missing school so bad, but at the same point, like, they've been doing this for how long now? I think of just a teacher to the south of me is completely virtual, has not stepped foot in her building since March of 2019 or March of 2020, excuse me. Like, has not been in her building because they won't allow her in. So think about little things like this of how you can really celebrate what those kids are doing. If you're doing virtual CDEs or SAEs or anything like that, try to find a way to make it work. Creating a PowerPoint with your students. This is one of my students, and I really give them the prompts and then encourage them to make it their own. So like, this is my upperclassmen, and I've already had them in class as a freshman, so I already know mostly everything about them. But so I just had them create something to remind me, like, what is their favorite food, what color, their favorite animal, their future career. And then I really encourage them to give me pictures. And I don't mean just pictures off the internet, but upload some pictures from your phone, because that allows me to build a deeper connection because they're actually theirs. And so having them create an About You PowerPoint and having them upload that so you can look through it and understand where that student comes from. You could ask them to put in a picture of where they live, and so you can understand maybe the environment that they live in, or their siblings, or their families, and things like that. And an example of this is I have a student in class that is Asian, and I didn't know that she was adopted. And so it was because of this PowerPoint that I actually got to learn that she was adopted. So those are just some things that you can learn personally from your kids. Focus on deep questions, not just like, what's your favorite color? Like, why do you enjoy, or what is your favorite place to go during the weekend, or things like that that can really allow you to build that deeper connection. And again, as I mentioned it, I encourage them to give me pictures off their phone and tell me something about them that, maybe is hard for them. But my younger classmen or my freshmen, I have like 3 to 4 slides for them to do. My upperclassmen, it's just one. Something very simple and basic. As I mentioned before, Flipgrid is awesome. Use Flipgrid for assignments and then make them use it. You really get to learn a lot. As I told kids in class, or I had one kid mention how I always have this right here as my background. It's because I just have always chosen this background, but it amazes me if you pay attention to your kids' videos routinely, their backgrounds change, and you can learn a lot by what the background is. I learned my students' home life just based off the background of their computer. And so you get to learn a lot about them. You get to see them without a mask on, which is mind-blowing for me because there's some kids I've yet to see without a mask on. You get to identify and learn more about them, and you get to assist you in understanding their environment. And you can use this for your About Me. So like, you can create an About Me Flipgrid and make all your kids do one too. And so again, you really get to understand and learn more about them and make it an assignment that they have to turn in. So that way you can spend time really understanding who they are. Try a virtual field trip. I realize that there's a lot out there to choose from, but and have your kids develop so many questions or ask while you go through the virtual field trip. It helps you understand how they think, helps you understand their IQ, helps them understand maybe what is very interesting to them and what isn't. It may even spark a deeper conversation. And if you have one, once a week, you may learn very quickly the one kid that is encouraged by this or excited by this, but it's just like, ooh, I never want to see that again. So if you can do virtual field trips, they do make a big difference, even if they aren't the same. Do an officer team question and answer night. So we were talking with my officer team the other day, and they're like, yeah, these kids don't know us. This is where this kind of came into play. Have officers Zoom or Google Meet with your members and have questions and answers and talk about CDEs, LDEs, have talking points, put them into breakout rooms, like all of those wonderful things. Members get to answer and ask questions, and you get to understand whom those members are and you can even incorporate games like a Kahoot or something like that to get them more engaged. I do want you to actually know that these are not my actual students on here. I did find this online. So, but it was just something to kind of show, like, get them involved with even virtually. And kind of my last one for the evening is I use Canva for everything. A picture says, 1,000 words, and you can really attract your kids if you make it fun, exciting, etc. Celebrate your students, share your updates, community support, anything that's exciting, anything that's happened. Try to make it so it's worth everything. Use social media to communicate with your kids. I, of course, have Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Instagram is, if there's any way that I want to get a hold of them, Instagram's the way to go. And so I use social media and Canva a lot to convey messages that may need to be conveyed on behalf of the chapter or even the school. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Riley Hinchy. I'm an ag teacher in Illinois. I've been teaching for 7 years, but Lord knows I still have so much more to learn. But I hope this has kind of helped you identify some ways that you can connect with your students a little bit more, or even be able to communicate with them. I know that through COVID, I've learned a lot of how to engage students in multiple different ways, or I think the biggest thing is just keeping their excitement, because after so many times of being let down, their excitement starts to diminish, and they've become numb to the fact that things may not be happening for a while. So if there's anything that I hope some of these things could help you with, it's reigniting that excitement with your students and within your program. So have a wonderful evening, ladies and gentlemen, and I wish you the best for this upcoming year. Bye, everyone.